Great. So my name's Frankie. I know some of you here today. I'm kind of starting with the same theme as Joe, really, just to say thank you for completing surveys. And the reason for that is that you might not think you've ever been involved in research, and you may not have participated, but actually, if you've completed a survey, you probably have informed research. So thank you for that. So the first question, you can have it on the screen. So I thought we'd start just by seeing kind of from yourselves what you think in terms of your symptoms with your pH bothers you the most. And you can fill this in, even if you're here with somebody, pop in and you can type it in and it'll come up as a word cloud, hopefully. Type in what you think is the most bothersome symptom. And I'm either going to get lots of the same things or lots of different things. Here we go. Okay, this is kind of what I was hoping for. Was, as you can see, everybody's different, and the way that we have to target research is to pull in lots of individuals and hopefully get out the end of it something that's going to meet everybody's expectations, which is obviously very difficult. So if we go to the next question. Do you need me to press? There we go. Okay. And so again, this is for everybody, clinicians, clinical team included. I don't think anybody's probably excluded from this. So I find I experience fatigue. So that's feeling excessively tired. So anything from all the time to I'm not bothered at all by this. There we go. So hugely variable. And again, this is just to show, and this will help inform our research as well, but it's just to show you that when we do research, we base our what we call endpoints, so the end results, on different things. One of the main focuses of the current research, which I'm going to talk to you about, which is called Phoenix, is targeting those endpoints to you. And that can be very difficult and very challenging, and it has to meet what the clinical team want in terms of their endpoints and what the outcomes are going to be, but also for the patients as well. So this is where Phoenix comes in. So I like the title because I'm a Harry Potter fan, and when I first heard about it, I thought, oh, but it's not related to that. It's a study that uses monitors, and I'm going to talk about one of the very special monitors in a minute. And one of the monitors is placed into the lungs, and the other one goes into just under the skin, over around the heart area. And what the aim of this study is to be able to choose the medications that are best for you, for your specific symptoms, and for you with pulmonary arterial hypertension. So it's very unique in the design. Part of the implanted monitors means that we can monitor you remotely at home. And we think this is beneficial, and you have also told us that it's beneficial in the surveys that you've given us. And one of the surveys that was done before Phoenix was even designed was about what you felt as patients would be beneficial. And 79% of you felt that the study's aim of minimising visits to specialist centres by enabling the data to be accessed by specialists from the home was very important, and 19% felt it was important. So this is why Phoenix came about. There was a survey done earlier than that in about 2017, again done by PHA UK, so thank you very much. And this just highlighted the difficulties that almost 40% of patients have in terms of just attending hospital for their appointments. And this quote here is just a really nice reflection of how that impacts upon going to work and also financially as well. So again, this is why the research that we've designed is moving towards more flexible and remote healthcare. Okay, so obviously with anything new, and there's always going to be concerns, and it's really important that we get those concerns from yourselves and we listen to them. And so one of the concerns is that I felt like when I had a telephone follow-up that something was missed. You know, I was deteriorated and something was missed. Okay, so how can we think about that? Well, hopefully with the implanted devices, we can pick up if you're deteriorating remotely. And actually, some people just prefer face-to-face appointments, and that's okay too. And there are some benefits as well to attending hospital. So it's not about completely replacing all healthcare remotely. It's about offering hybrid appointments and flexible service arrangements. And that's, again, just some of you prefer face-to-face, which is great. So why might us as a multi-professional team feel that remote healthcare is beneficial? Well, one of the first reasons is that it actually may reduce any unnecessary trips to hospital. We may actually be able to identify those who need help a bit sooner because we're getting in the data remotely from your home rather than waiting for you to come to hospital to be seen. And we actually get more information in advance, which potentially could provide better health care. And the final thing is that actually we can improve health resources, and this is kind of to the environment as well. So this is another WooClap question. So when attending appointments away from hospital, so this could be any appointment that you've attended, so anybody can answer this question. So you can select which you most agree with. I like the flexibility of attending appointments remotely. I find they fit into my lifestyle easier. I worry aspects of my care will be missed. I would feel more comfortable if I could access more information about my health, and I feel much happier attending hospital. They're the 5 options. Great. So again, a big range, as with everything, as expected. So the purpose then really is just to be able to offer flexibility for you. And this is what personalised medicine is all about. So what's Phoenix doing for patients with pulmonary arterial hypertension, so group 1 patients? Well, we're using remote technologies. What are these technologies? So we've got a CardioMEMS device, which I'm going to talk about in a bit more detail, and I've got some devices to show you, some dummy ones. We also put in an insertable cardiac monitor, which sits just under the skin on the heart with some local anaesthetic, and that can monitor your heart rate and your heart rhythm. You just plug in the monitor at home, you don't need to do anything else, it just downloads automatically. And we're also using wearables, so we've got the Garmin watch to help do a 6-minute walk test, which it's in collaboration with Cambridge and Joe Apparito as well. And then we're using mobile phones to ask you about how you're feeling, and that's throughout the trial. So it's a weekly emphasis 10, and it's also questionnaires weekly about the side effects that you're getting from the medicines, and also your overall experience of taking the medicines as well. Because without that information, we're not going to know how you're actually feeling. We're going to maybe be able to tell what your pressure is like in the lungs, and we're able to tell what your heart rate is doing, but we won't know truly how it's affected your quality of life, if it has at all. So with all of this technology, we are checking to see 2 drugs, which you can already have. You've had the wonderful fantasy football talk about selexipag and riociguat. So patients who start on this trial are enrolled and then they're randomised to either selexipag or riociguat at the start. And what they do is, so you can see for block 1, they'll start on the drug, it will slowly increase the drug as we're able, and then at the end you'll have an MRI scan, so one at the start and one at the end, as well as all these technologies, just monitoring to see what's happening, what's improving, what's not improving. Then you have a period of washout of the drug, and then you go on to the other alternative drug that you've not had before. It's a 6-month trial, so it's quite a lengthy trial in some respects, because you do get weekly follow-up during that time. But actually only 4 of the visits are to hospital, and the rest of the time you are followed up remotely. And the idea of this trial is to match the best tablet to the individual. And so as you've seen with all of the questions that you've just answered, everybody's given different answers because everybody's different. And the idea is that we're going to personalise these therapies, and at the end you don't have to wait until all of the trial is finished to find out the results. You get your results at the end and you're told, I say told, but given a description of which one we think is best, and that compiles all of the information, and that's how you've been feeling on the drug, as well as the what we call the physiological information, so the heart rate and the pressures. It's all of that information, it's not just one thing. this leads into my next question. So, because we are heavily relying on emphasis 10 to gain quality of life information in this trial. So I'd like, if you've ever filled it in or you know about it, if you can answer, does it ask about the things that are important to your quality of life that are affected by, specifically by your pH? So, fantastic. That's what I was hoping for. Strongly positive, which is good. Okay, and the next question is about cardiomems. So I might get Lisa just to pass this around. So Abbott have very kindly given me a dummy. It took me quite a long time to get this. So Lisa's passing it around so none of you nick it. So I'm just going to go through the cardiomems because it's quite specific to pulmonary hypertension. We do use it in heart failure patients. There's been about 30,000 devices implanted across the globe. So if you look at the yellow arrows, I'm just showing kind of the flow of blood. So that blue arrow now, the blood's coming from the body. And then if you look at the other blue vein above that, that's coming kind of from the head and neck area. So it comes into the top chamber of the heart, then it travels around. So this is where our catheter goes. And then it goes around into the pulmonary artery, which I've coloured in purple. And then we've got this device called the cardiomems, which, as you can see when it's passing around, is very small. It's probably, the actual device is probably only about that big with the loops on. And what this does is it's got a membrane inside this clever little glass tube. And with the pressure in the artery, that changes the membrane. And then what you do at home is you lie on a pillow and you press a button and it plays some nice music for you. And then it sends us a reading and we can get that reading from anywhere. I could, if I wanted to, log into my laptop now and have a look at readings. So it's a fantastic bit of kit. And it's really changed what we can know about you and what we can know about you at home. And there's no other way of getting this information other than doing a right heart catheterization. So these pictures show what we do in the lab when we pop in these devices. So picture A is called an angiogram. And what we've done there is during the right heart catheter, we've mixed contrast with a bit of water and then injected it and taken a picture. And it gives us a nice picture of what the vessels look like in the lungs. And we check that it's the right size for the device to go in. And then the picture on the right, that's labelled B, that's got a wire down and that little device is on there. And it's really tiny, you can hardly see it because it's so small. But that's what we do when we pop them in. And then the wire comes out and the device stays in and it stays in forever. There's no battery in there and it works with the pillow at home. So we've only put these in patients at the moment who have been on research trials. And this is the example of a pressure trace. That's what I can see on my computer. Now, this is not a Phoenix patient because Alex likes to keep that under wraps, top secret, and said I would be shot if I was going to give any of that information. So this is from a different patient that's had a monitor in for a while. And this is a case study just showing in the blue line the pressure. As you can see, they've been on IV therapy and they've come off IV therapy. And then where the purple line is, that's when it says stop. That's when it's been stopped and they've been in hospital. And then they've gone in onto that other drug called Selexipag. And as you can see, the pressure trace has come down very nicely. So we've been able to see all of this without having to do another right heart catheter. We can see when they're at home, when their pressures are going up. And we can also help manage the medication in balance with the side effects, because this patient was getting side effects, which is why the drug's gone up and down, and we're trying to balance that with the overall pressure as well, because we know that if the pressure is lower, that you're very much likely to live longer, certainly from the pH perspective. Okay, so putting all this together, well, where do we hope to go in the future when we've got the results from this trial? Well, we know there are things that we can't change, so you need a medical review once a year, and that's part of the national guidelines, and we think that's a very good idea. We can't change where, I've put MRI scans, but where you have your scans. Echo scans certainly can be done in your local hospital, but MRI scans generally, we have a certain protocol that we like to do for pulmonary hypertension that's better done by a specialist. And we can't change where your specialist centre is located. But the things that we could change in the future, and particularly with the advance of remote technologies, are how often you have to come to visit the hospital, what medical information you can access from your home, ways to monitor your own health at home, and also things that you can tell us. And where this has really moved forward is probably the best examples in cancer patients, where now they have a two-way communication system which has been rolled across Europe, and patients put in their side effects and their symptoms, and there's a clinician on the end of that service, and they get an alert through. And if someone is coming up with what's called a red alert, that should be addressed within half an hour. So this is changing, medicine is changing, and the way that you communicate your symptoms with us is changing too. So, question, would you like to be able to access more of your personal health information? Again, that can be anybody that answers this question. You don't have to have pulmonary hypertension. Okay, well, that's interesting. So the majority of people would like access to more personal health information. Okay, so if you could, hang on. Could you just click on? So then, this is a bit more MPH focused, but if you and this definitely will inform future work. So if you could access these things from your home, which of them would you like to access? You can tick all of them if you want. There's no limit there. So we've got blood test results, emphasis 10 scores, pulmonary artery pressures, scan report results, and walk test distances. Yep. Yeah. I think at the moment it's controlled by primary care, and so they hold, I suppose, the access to the digital information and the information security. So they will allow certain results of their results, and I believe that the different primary care trusts, or intermediate care boards as they're called now, will allow access to different information depending on what they feel is appropriate for patients to be able to access. And sometimes that's because the results need reviewed and approved before it can then come onto the system to be accessed. South Yorkshire's a digital health hub now, which is exciting. The launch is next week. But these types of things are going to be discussed as part of the hub, and there is a patient group that's actually working together on that to try and make information more accessible and more transparent. But at the moment, as far as I'm aware, it's just the primary care have access to provide that, not the hospitals. No, exactly. You're right. It's very frustrating, and it's frustrating as a clinician knowing that a patient's had a test in another hospital that you can't see, and you normally have to then go and apply and ask and request for the results, and it causes delays, unnecessary delays. And I do hope that in the future that barrier is going to be broken down. Okay, how have we got with this? Okay, so almost so. Big emphasis on blood tests and scans and pressures. That's fantastic. So on the side of being, research informants, not necessarily participants, but if you would like to inform us about research, then Lisa has some forms at the end, which I'm sure she'll remind you of about as well. But if we find it as valuable for you to give us your thoughts and opinions as it is to participate. So don't feel like that you can't be involved because you have reservations about participating. There are other ways, and one of the ways is to fill in surveys and be part of patient groups that help inform research. So I've got questions. I don't know if you want to do them now or at the end. I've got some more monitors if anybody wants to look at the end, or if anybody has any questions about these, then feel free to fire away. More than happy to answer those.